Welcome to 2020, Kryptonians. This is my first video of the new year, my first movie review. Unfortunately, I wish it was under better circumstances. Oh, January, you raggedy bitch. Today I'm going to be talking about a film called The Grudge. The Grudge is a new horror movie remake directed by Nicholas Pesci, I think is his name. This is a remake of both the Japanese version of The Grudge as well as the two American remakes from earlier, like in the early mid-2000s. I think they came out, I think The Grudge came out in 2004. It had Sarah Michelle Gellar or whatever her name is. This film stars Lin Shaye and Andrea Riseborough and John Cho and Damien Bashir, among other people. The story here is essentially what you've seen with The Grudge before. It follows a cop who stumbles upon a body after relocating to this city. She and her partner discover this body. She goes to this house, and this house seems to have a lot of bodies attached to it, like murders and some bad things that happened at this house. Upon investigating the connection between the body and the house, a lot of weird shenanigans start happening, a lot of things. She starts seeing things, and she starts being followed by things, haunted by things. So you start to find out that there is something, some kind of vengeful ghost or something that's in that house is haunting her and haunting anybody associated with this case. So I'm pretty sure my early reaction should tell you that I was not a big fan of this movie. I didn't like it much, but I always try to be positive, and I always try to look at the positive in a film first. That's why I have my reviews separated into supers and Luthors, because I try to be fair. So if I'm being fair about this movie, I will say that the cinematography is very bleak and gloomy and dark, and I think it does a good job at setting the mood and setting the atmosphere for what the movie's going for. Sometimes in a horror movie, it all comes down to atmosphere. It all comes down to how you feel when all the scary and creepy shit is happening, and this movie at least tries to do a good job with that by elevating the cinematography. So the movie does have solid cinematography, I'll give it that. As far as the performances go, I mean, they're fine. Like, most of the performances don't really make or break the movie. I mean, you feel like you could replace a lot of these actors with anybody, and the movie would have been no different. It's kind of a workman-like thing. Like, maybe they could have been better in some spots, but I guess they could have been worse. If there is one performance that stands out in this film, though, I would say it's Lin Shaye. Lin Shaye seems to be a really underrated actress, especially when it comes to her horror movie roles. She's not in the movie that much, but she's definitely committed, and she's definitely trying to sell the best part of whatever her role is in this movie, and I appreciate her for that. I'll also say that the structure of this movie from a storytelling standpoint was kind of interesting. Like, I kind of liked how they were trying to tell the story. It doesn't try to tell the story in a normal, straightforward, linear fashion. Like, it tries to jump around to different time periods and characters and locations. And that was kind of an interesting thing to see with this movie. It was kind of interesting to see them try to tell that story. It's all about execution, and yeah, okay, we'll get to the shit execution in a second. But I just wanted to give them credit for at least trying to tell it in a different way. Alright, now let's talk about the shit execution, because pretty much everything else about this movie was shit. And I think the biggest problem I have with this movie is how boring it is. I'm kind of a casual horror movie fan, so I don't go into horror movies with an elevated sense of anticipation or expectation unless it's from a director that I really like and respect. For the most part, I'm pretty simple. I want the film to either be reasonably well made, or I want the film to be reasonably entertaining. I don't really get that scared anymore, but I do feel like if the movie can have some creepy stuff, and if it can at least get me a little unsettled, then the movie has won. That's the biggest problem with this movie, is how horrendously dull and boring it is, and how uninspired it is. Not only the execution of its story, but also the execution of its characters and the execution of the creepy and scary shit that they are going for. Start with the character work in this movie. I mean, pretty much every character is just very one-dimensional, very thinly written, not really enough given to make you give a shit about the people in this movie. Every 10 minutes or so, you have to jump around to a different part of the story. You have to try to get reinvested in certain aspects of this story, and as a result, it's just hard to really get attached to anybody. Not to mention, again, the characterization is just very dull here. The main chick in this movie, I think she's played by Andrea Riseborough. I think that's her name. I think I said her name in the beginning. I don't know why I'm having trouble remembering it now. New Year, same type of memory problems as it relates to the videos, but as far as she goes as a protagonist, there's just nothing. There's just nothing here. I felt nothing for her. Her character is nothing. Like, her character is just, she's a dry sponge. She's an old washcloth, okay? She's an empty, dry-ass piece of paper with nothing written on it. Like, she's nothing. She's just there to fulfill the role of cop protagonist. A lot of it is just a bunch of slow-moving scenes that build up to a jump scare. I guess if you like jump scares, I guess maybe you'll be somewhat entertained by that, but to me, that's not scary. All this movie is just a long series of cheap-ass jump scares, and they just do it over and over and over again to the point that you can predict almost every single scare before it happens. Even when they try to scare you, they're doing it in a boring way. As far as the non-linear way that they tell the story, where they jump around to all these different time periods, honestly, by the end of the movie, you feel like most of it is filler. Like, you feel like most of it is filler to just make the runtime a little bit longer. By the way, this movie's 94 minutes long. It felt like it was 2.5 2.5 hours. They try to act like it's like this big profound thing, like you're discovering something really incredible. Ultimately, you feel like you're not really discovering any new or revelatory information. Like you feel like you're just there and you're discovering information that you already know, because the film has already wasted a whole bunch of exposition telling you exactly what's happened, building up to some cheap ass, stupid ass jump scare, and then something happens, and then at that point you're like, oh great, okay, well, when's this movie over? The Grudge started off 2020 in a really bad way. I hated this movie. I'm gonna give it my lowest rating of Quest for Peace. Hey, if you appreciate The Grudge and you're invested in it as a franchise, I would still probably recommend you go check it out. Maybe you'll find something in this movie redeemable that I didn't. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you for tuning into my first video of the new year. I have a lot more work coming out, including a review for Messiah on Netflix. I'm very interested to talk about that series with you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Superfan channel, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.